Hello, I'm Barbara Clark, and I am bringing you my dollar store challenge, and I'm going to give you a tiny sneak peek. And that's my sneak peek. All right, have fun. So this is actually what I went looking for at the dollar store. This is what I wanted. It's a puzzle made out of these little shapes, and I'm going to carve stamps into the backs of them for my project. I don't know what I'm going to do with the front. And I also found these at the dollar store. So I have spent a whole $3 for this project, plus another $1 for Butterfinger minis. So let's get going. So I'm using that method where you heat up the foam with the heat gun and stamp into it. And I've got this sped up 4 times, 8 times maybe, because basically the first time I didn't stamp deep enough and I heated it up again, stamped into it again, and I ended up getting a pattern that I like pretty much. But every time I was heating this up, I was aware of the high levels of toxicity that I was probably inhaling. I wasn't in a ventilated room. I was doing this at night, and I thought, oh, this is probably not the best idea in the world. Though, of course, I did it about 3 more times before I finished. And I also, you have to be really careful with those heat guns on that stuff, because if you hold it too close and in one place too long, you can kind of get a little melted. You can melt that foam. So those were the things I learned from doing this. But I ended up with a couple stamps that I really like from it too. Maybe 3, 4 out of the 9 I really like. Okay, so I did not run the camera on these. I made some scores of circles, partial circles, and heart. And these were where I printed these guys off. I printed off pretty darn farm out. And so here's where I printed them off in my book. So that's a nice little thing. In the center, I can just ink the center, or I can ink it with the circle around it. And then this is the other ones with ink on them. Like great background stamps. I've got 3 more to do, and I'm gonna scratch some spirals in this one. I have to say that this is pretty much an epic failure. I'm using little embossing styluses. The straight point, the smallest point tore into the foam, and the large point was too large. So I left this footage in here, sped it up a lot, so that I won't occupy too much of this. I still think it'll end up being a decent little background, especially with that gray, putting that gray in the background, make a decent, half-decent background stamp. But this is my least favorite of the 9 that I created. See, I wish I'd kind of stopped there. I just had the one little mistake in the middle, but then I redid it. All right. Well, these were I finished the last ones, and I'm not totally unhappy. I'm happy with this one. This is that Tim Holtz stencil. I love that burlap stencil. So that's just heating that up and pushing it down on the Tim Holtz. And that, of course, comes out beautifully like that. And then this was the hot mess one I made with where I really messed up the spiral in the center. But you know what? That's not all that bad. It's not all that bad. It'd be great for background. Just make a little subtle background stamp. And then this was the one I did with my new little stencils that I got from the Dollar Tree. Made that little guy. And he looks like that. Can you see the green? It's very light. So that is my experiment with making these little guys, which I wanted to do ever since I saw Tanya McGuire with one of these things that she had found at a Dollar Tree, and I couldn't find one at my Dollar Tree. But today I scored and got lucky. And I made myself a mess of stamps that if I had a big ink pad, or I could do this on the jelly plate, couldn't I? I could do this on the jelly plate. Now that would be really amazing. I'm leaving this in just to prove to you that I actually tried this on the jelly plate, but these stamps are too shallow. Or maybe if I play with them a little bit more, I'll get better results. Some of the ones that just made patterns, shapes in the background worked better than, like that big heart one. It was too, it took up too much of the paint. It's too shallow a stamp. So I went back and I stamped some more on top of these jelly prints that you saw in the last shot. These will make great backgrounds for things. Cut them out for backdrops on cards. Make little flower petals out of them. I like the way those shallower stamps work on those little things better on with the archival inks than I do on the jelly plate. So I've just stamped on top of these with new colors with the stamps. But that came out pretty nice once I added stuff to it. Like that. So that is my grand experiment with the Dollar Store Challenge.